The trial had been going on for 3 hours, and King Vorthin was beginning to lose patience. 12 of the finest warriors in the Zeth Empire stood before his daughter, Princess Lyra, each one attempting to accomplish this sacred task, lifting her from the ground while she remained in her ceremonial armor, a requirement for any suitor seeking her hand. It was tradition, a test of strength and worthiness. It was also, Vorthin suspected, an outdated ritual that ensured his daughter would never marry. Lyra's ceremonial armor alone weighed 800 pounds. At her own body mass, nearly 300 pounds of dense Zeth physiology, and the total was over 1,000 pounds of dead weight. The knights, despite their impressive musculature and combat training, struggled and strained. Some managed to lift her a few inches off the ground before their legs buckled. Others couldn't move her at all. The final knight, a towering Vex warrior with 4 arms and steel-hard exoskeleton, managed to hoist her waist-high before his secondary arms gave out and she crashed back to the floor with a sound like an avalanche. He bowed in defeat and retreated. "The trial is concluded," Vorthin announced wearily. "Perhaps in another generation." "Your Majesty," a voice interrupted. "I would like to attempt the trial." The court fell silent. Standing at the chamber's entrance was a human, barely 6 feet tall, with soft pink skin and just 2 arms. He wore mechanic's coveralls, stained with hydraulic fluid. His name was James Rodriguez, and he'd been hired 3 months ago to maintain the palace's climate control systems. The Zeth courtiers erupted in laughter. A human? A mechanic? The princess herself looked bemused, though not unkind. "This is a trial for nobility," Vorthin said, but there was curiosity in his voice. Humans were practical creatures. Amusing, sometimes. Never threatening. "Are you certain?" "I am, Your Majesty," James said simply. He approached Princess Lyra and bowed with genuine respect. Not the theatrical flourishes of the knights, but something sincere. Lyra inclined her head slightly, intrigued by his directness. James studied the armor carefully, examining how it distributed weight, where the joints were, how the structure actually functioned. It was what he did with machines, analyzed systems, understood mechanics, found elegant solutions. Then he stepped close to the princess and did something none of the knights had done. He asked for permission. "May I?" he said gently. Lyra nodded, a small smile playing at her mandibles. James positioned himself at her side, then did something that defied the expectations of everyone in the chamber. Instead of trying to lift her as a dead weight, he instructed her to lean against him. Her armor pressed against his shoulder and side. He wrapped one arm around her waist, his other arm extended for balance. And he lifted, not dramatically, not with the straining effort the knights had displayed, just smoothly, efficiently, as if he were picking up a piece of heavy machinery he'd lifted 100 times before. He carried her across the chamber, one arm supporting her entire weight with remarkable ease, and gently set her down on the other side. The court erupted, but not in laughter this time. In shock. "Ow!" Vorthin demanded. The knights could barely. "Leverage, Your Majesty," James said, breathing only slightly harder than normal. The knights were trying to prove their strength. "I was trying to solve the problem." He turned to Lyra. "No offense, but you're not a test of strength. You're a test of understanding." They were approaching this like combat. I approached it like engineering. Lyra laughed, a sound like crystalline bells. "The human understands what our warriors do not. Strength without wisdom is just strain." Vorthin stared at the mechanic for a long moment. By the laws of tradition, James had completed the trial. By the laws of marriage contracts, he was now eligible for his daughter's hand. A human, a commoner, a mechanic. "What is your name again?" Vorthin asked. "James Rodriguez, Your Majesty." The king smiled slowly. "Then welcome to the royal family, James Rodriguez. Perhaps it's time we updated our traditions." Lyra extended her hand to James, who took it with the same practical grace he'd shown throughout the trial. As they walked together from the chamber, the watching court fell silent, contemplating what they'd just witnessed. A human had succeeded where the strongest warriors had failed, not through greater strength, but through greater understanding. He had looked at an impossible problem and seen not an obstacle to overpower, but a puzzle to solve. In doing so, he'd reminded an entire empire that true strength often lies not in force, but in wisdom.